Oftentimes we talk about how money corrupts politics and the media here in the United States, but it also has an impact on education and scientific research. Case in point, Harold Hamm. He is the CEO of Continental Resources. He's this big oil tycoon here in the U.S. And lately, he's been very, very upset with the Oklahoma Geological Survey because it turns out that those damn researchers are putting out information that goes against his oil drilling. Now, fracking has had a huge impact on Oklahoma and some other states that aren't likely to have earthquakes. Of course, Oklahoma time to time does have small quakes, but nothing big. But ever since fracking began, it turns out that things have changed. There have been more and more earthquakes. In fact, just last year, there were almost 500 or over 500. And so the Geological Survey just needs to give us the information we need to know about what's happening with the oil and gas industry and what kind of impact it's having on the environment. Well, Harold Hamm was so upset about this that he actually sent an email to Oklahoma University threatening to basically go after the university in an implied way, but he definitely indicated that he wanted to have some role in the way that these scientific studies are done. Now, let me give you some information. Larry Grillot, who is someone who works at the university. He is from the College of Earth and Energy. He's the Dean of University of Oklahoma, said Mr. Hamm is very upset at some of the earthquake reporting to the point that he would like to see select OGS staff dismissed. So he's already trying to have an impact. He's trying to get people dismissed. Hamm also expressed an interest in joining a search committee charged with finding a new director for the Geological Survey. And the dean wrote, Hamm indicated that he would be visiting with Governor Mary Fallin on the topic of moving the OGS out of the University of Oklahoma. Now, why are they so worried about what he thinks? Well, it turns out that Harold Hamm has donated more than $20 million to the University of Oklahoma, and so money talks. So just to give you a sense of how much of an impact he's already had, he of course, has donated all this money. So as a result, the Oklahoma Geological Survey was very, very slow to admit that fracking had an impact on the earthquakes in the state. Okay, so of course you have seismologists and other researchers from throughout the country indicating that, hey, you know, the fracking is actually having an impact on these earthquakes. And the Oklahoma Geological Survey did not sign on to that until much later. Yeah. Okay, so let's jump in. You guys tell me what you guys think about this, and I'll give you more really depressing details. Yeah, like I think anyone watching this can understand that he's a businessman who has a financial stake in the state of the research into the effect of fracking on the geological activity of that state. But at the same time, if you've been watching our channel, a few weeks ago we showed you the data showing year by year the chart of earthquakes in Oklahoma, and it was nothing for decades and decades, and then in a 3-year span it goes up, and like as you said, 400-fold increase. And if you live in Oklahoma, perhaps you don't want the state to disintegrate underneath you. And so, like, he can try to have an influence, but we need to make sure that our universities are at least somewhat insulated from this sort of political and monetary pressure. It's really difficult to do that because there have been instances of the Koch brothers funding entire departments at universities. And you have to understand, when you have these huge oil tycoons or coal tycoons who stand to make a lot of money or lose a lot of money based on the information that's released from that university, well, they're not going to fund that university because they're just doing it out of the goodness of their own hearts. They're doing it because they stand something to gain or lose as a result. So just to show you what kind of impact he's had after sending these messages to officials at the university, apparently the newly hired incoming director of the OGS, Jeremy Boak, will start work in July. Boak, who has been working as director of the Center for Oil Shale Technology and Research at the Colorado School of Mines, says that he had no communication with Hamm or Continental Resources during his interview process. So already we're having people working for that department that would obviously do exactly what Harold Hamm would want him to do.
Well, you know, here is the vice president, the university's vice president of public affairs. Her name is Catherine Bishop, and she claims she was asked about that, and you know, nothing, no, Mr. Hamm didn't want to do. So it seems like the people who are getting the most money from this guy are totally in bed with him, you know, and that's what really, you know, people forget, like, well, you know, presidents of universities, they really don't do anything except raise money for the university. Like, that's their main thing, is to be a fundraiser, which is how they justify their high salaries now, right?
Yes.
And so that's why this is, hey, this guy's going to give me money. That's my job, to get money from this guy. Fuck academics.
Yeah.
Right? That's pretty much what's happening here.
Yeah, and this sounds exactly like the sort of thing we have with actual elected officials, that someone will serve in government and then they get a cushy, high-paying lobbying job working for the industry that they used to have to regulate, and then maybe they'll run for office again and then get another lobbying job. And the one of the few things perhaps that was providing a check on those politicians was that from time to time studies would come out showing actual science that we would have some expectation the politicians would listen to.
Yep.
And I think businessmen took a little while to figure out, well, I can buy out the politicians, maybe I should just buy out the scientists or the universities and have them put pressure on the scientists.
Yep.
But I mean, at a certain point, like you said, they took a while to sign on to this, and they still, they'll say, we can't prove that it's associated with fracking, but it does seem suspicious that fracking started right around when there was a 400-fold increase. I mean, if not that, is it kaiju? Divine intervention? I don't know what could be causing this.
It wouldn't make any sense. And so the numbers speak for themselves. In Oklahoma, where the number of earthquakes of a magnitude 3.0 or greater increased from an average of 1.6 a year before 2009 to 585 last year, researchers at the OGS have been slower than many others to draw a link between the industry and the earthquakes.
Is everybody running their dryer at the same time? Like, what else could be leading to that?
It's absurd. And look,
I heard Chris Christie was, anyway.
Just visiting.
We got to throw in that Chris Christie joke, okay? It has more of an impact than what the scientists put out there. You guys already know what the ramifications are. We're already way behind when it comes to doing something to mitigate the impact of climate change. And so this is not just about earthquakes. This is about what we're doing to the environment as a whole.
Yeah.
These corporations and these companies and these oil tycoons have absolutely destroyed any possibility of doing something to save the environment. The only thing that we can do, of course, is try to get money out of politics. That is a long process. And I'm worried that by the time we actually do something about it, it's going to be too late. And what amazes me about people like Harold Hamm is you don't have a family. You're not worried about your grandkids or family members that are going to be around 100 years from now when things get really bad. Things are already bad, but imagine a century from now.
Yeah, but if he can get a couple more fracking wells, then he can build every one of his family a safe room. Right? That's what he's trying to do. I think that's why he needs the money. He needs the safe room for when the apocalypse happens.
Yeah. The greed is incredible. He's already so tremendously wealthy. He already donated $20 million to the university. He's that wealthy. I mean, to the point where he can just put $20 million into a university to get the kind of scientific studies that he needs to save his business.
So I wish they would study more CEOs like that. You know, it comes back to that movie Wall Street when Michael Douglas, and they asked him, you know, how much greed, how many boats, how many yachts can you ski behind at the same time? Only one. How much do you need to feel? And so it's, I don't know, to me, I think it's these guys have their hole in their soul and their personality, and they just think more and more will fill it up. And it doesn't, but they don't know what else to do, so they keep more and more and more, and they still have a hole in their soul. And all the oil they sell in the world won't fill it up.